I had to type it manually.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's all right. That's what took me a little while because that there's unique number that is generated.
Huh. Yeah, yeah. And I went ahead and emailed it to you as well, so I don't know if you got that later.
I got actually the first one just came in. No, no, I guess the one that you sent came in, and yeah, that one came in at 9:57. So that one came in, but I was already typing it manually, so I'm here.
Well, how you doing, Mike?
Doing great, man. How you doing?
Good, good. I sent you another more detailed uh, topic of ideas to your Instagram just so we'd have a little bit. I took what you had and expanded on some things I wanted to talk about.
That's great. Let me open it up. I don't use Instagram app,
Okay.
but I use the web version of it, and the web version does not allow you to do a lot of things.
Oh, I know.
So,
Drew
but it doesn't
Mariski. Go ahead.
but it doesn't track you as much. Like it doesn't have as much of a tracking capability. So
Yeah, Drew sent me a bunch of videos and I could not see them online at all. I had to look at them on my phone, download them, and then transfer them over to be able to do anything with them. It's kind of crazy.
yeah, uh, for Instagram, when I have to download something, there's a couple of websites that allow you to just plug in the link and then you can download the video directly to your computer and do the editing or your phone.
Hmm.
I see the topics. Yep,
Yeah.
good
So the
stuff.
first thing I wanted to start with was JJ. This guy has got to have the worst luck at nationals of anybody. I started thinking about it. I mean, he had Poppergate,
Yeah,
where he hit the popper and it didn't go, and then on calibration it fell. Um, he got bumped to
safety.
open at
I was on.
production
I,
next.
I was actually there, dude. He was right. I think he was second or third behind me. So it was the last stage of day two, I think it was. And I just finished shooting the stage, and I was completely like out of my element. I was asking Nils, Nils, what's your? He's looking at me. He's like, dude, like you're in a super squad. Why are you asking me for this advice? You don't have a plan for this stage yet? I felt like I did not belong, to be honest with you. So I finished shooting the stage, and I'm so disappointed with myself. I go and we go right to chrono on the left hand side, and Casey Reed was there, somebody else. So we in the chrono. I walk off the stage, and then I think I ran into Logan, and he's like, dude, he goes, dude, what happened? What happened? And I'm like, what? Like, I'm in my own bubble, like just steaming from my poor performance on day two. And he's like, what happened to JJ? I'm like, what happened? He goes, oh, he got, I'm thinking JJ got DQ'd or something. Like, he got bumped too open. I'm like, really? What happened? Yeah, his gun didn't fit. I'm like, no, no. Like, so here I am now. I forgot about my problems. I'm thinking, damn, JJ got, so, and then I saw him the next morning. I'm like, JJ, are you still shooting production or what? He's like, nah, man. So, but he came back, and I said, like, the JJ I know is gonna come back. He's gonna shoot the match just like he was going to shoot it if he didn't get up to open, just to see where he would land. Otherwise, like a competitor of that level is not gonna just because somebody said, well, he should just go home. Why even finish? Why even bother? I'm like, no, no, no. That's not that's not him.
No,
That's not anybody I know. You will continue
no.
shooting no matter what, and so at least you can see how well you did. So, but yeah, to your point, bad luck. But then, how do you
Yeah.
like listen? To give him some shit. Like, how do you not check your shit before? Part of my friends before the nationals.
Yeah, and I thought Armscore was his ammo sponsor. So I mean, maybe not. I don't know, but I was shocked to hear that he had a squib when he commented on that USPSA post. I was like, what?
Can you
So
imagine?
apparently,
Put yourself in his shoes. As well known as he is, as great of a competitor as he is, and the great personality that he presents to everybody that he's shooting with, how much comments he had to deal, how much crap he had to deal with from his friends, from people he barely knows. Like everybody's making comments, and you got to maintain good demeanor, and
yeah.
be. It takes a level of professionalism to do that.
Yeah, and I would have been bitter. I was bitter when it happened to me in 2020, and I wasn't gonna win anything, not even high class. So
I,
it didn't
you know,
matter.
and honestly, it speaks a lot about the character of the person. When in your worst moment, you can still maintain. Like anybody can be a friendly person on the range, and people say, "Oh, I know this guy. He's super friendly." I'm like, "Yeah, yeah. Anybody can be friendly on a good day." But how do you react? And listen, we can talk about other, you know, great examples from recent history when somebody is having a bad day and that cost them their job, right? Literally.
Yeah,
So,
literally.
so here you are. You're running to win the nationals, and you're having the worst moment of your, last several months of preparation and competing, and you're still able to maintain, good attitude, good positive attitude, present a good face, you know, to the community. It speaks a lot about the character of the person, I think.
Yeah, I completely agree. And apparently Mason took full advantage of the opportunity to give JJ a hard time and told him his gear sucked. He said like 45 seconds after it happened. I mean, he didn't even get a chance to really digest exactly what happened. And Mason's like, man, your gear sucks.
Hey, listen, I'm sure Mason also gets a lot of crap for SIG, right?
Yeah,
Because of all the
probably.
pictures that I've seen on the internet. I don't know anything about
Yeah.
it, but from what I've seen, he probably maybe he got some crap from JJ and now he's giving it back to him. Who knows?
Maybe so. Because they do give it to each other.
No, for sure.
It is cutthroat. Oh, that is funny. Yeah, but I was thinking about it. I was like, man, he had popper gate. He got bumped to open. He's had his squib. It's like this guy. I mean, when things go well, he wins, but
Yeah.
it's
You, you
one
know,
or
I,
the other.
I have a soft spot for JJ in my heart. I want to give him shit, but he does not know me that well, so I don't want to. He doesn't get offended about any of this. JJ was on my. I think I told you this. 2018 was my first nationals. It was spur of the moment kind of a thing. I was only shooting USPSA for like 6 or 7 months, less when I signed up for the squad, and I ended up having JJ, Blake Miguez, a couple other guys that I've seen on TV on my squad, and obviously he knew who the hell is this B class guy. And a couple of good words he said to me after shooting a stage, it meant a lot to me. I still remember that to this date. So again, it speaks volumes how good of an ambassador of the sport. Like all the sponsorships and all the titles and all that stuff. That's great, but presenting that good you know attitude towards newer shooters, somebody who not even remotely on your radar as far as the level of skill or whatnot, and be able to encourage them, to be able to give them a couple of good words, that stays with you. Just like that, the same goes like if you experience something negative from somebody. Like I've known people that have said this to me, like, "Hey, well, I don't like this guy." I'm like, "Why don't you like this guy?" Well, because this one time he said this, and I'm like, "Listen, I know this guy really well, and he's been my mentor and all that stuff. So that's not the person. What you're describing is not the person that I know. So do me a favor, like as a favor to me, give that guy another chance. Maybe it wasn't the right day. Maybe he had a bad day. Maybe something got disconnected. But that's not the person I know. So maybe, but that stuck with that person. That experience from many years ago stuck with that person, and ever since then, like they don't know the right side of that person. You know, so
Yeah.
those things mean something. So and JJ has been one of those guys that consistently, whenever I met him, always presents the best side of the best attitude and so.
He's got to be the most cheerful guy in practical shooting because I just saw the video. I just watched the video that I'm assuming Josh Freilich and them put together for the USPSA at the end of the entire match. And JJ's like laughing and joking with people. I'm like, man, it's amazing that he's able to maintain that cheery attitude no matter what
Yes.
happens.
I can only imagine that throughout his career, he's been doing it for a long time. He had to experience those moments. He has learned to get over those moments and get back into the true nature of listen, I've had those moments, and I would go and I would walk off the stage, just stand there, look at the ground, and just be mad at myself. But after 10, 15 minutes, you go back and you continue doing things.
Yeah.
Having his level of experience, I think it shortens the pain a little bit and allows you to get back to things.
I guess.
I don't know.
It
We'll
cuts a
never
little
know, dude. We'll
deeper.
never know. We'll never know what's
Yeah,
going on.
cuts a little deeper when you're, trying to win a national championship.
It really does, I'm sure. So,
Now, Jacob's an interesting story. He was 15th at the end of day one,
yes.
and he was fourth at the end of day two.
I told you, I shared with you, I was driving back from the local match here in Pennsylvania yesterday, and I was refreshing just like what you were doing live. I did not know you were doing it live. I was refreshing tracking each day and refreshing the scores, trying to see, and it was almost as if I was there live, just imagining, seeing the hit factors. What does he need to do to win this stage or to pick up a couple of points?
Hmm.
How many match points behind on each day? And I'm checking a couple of guys who I'm interested in. Some of my friends and some of the super squatter guys, because of the two super squads, I can't track everybody, even though most names are familiar to me.
Right.
And it was amazing to know, like, oh man, Jacob was out. Oh, that's because he's a great guy too, right? And then boom, look at that. Ability to push when to flip that mental switch.
Yeah.
It's a sign of a champion. And I'm like, I've known national and world champions in other sports, and I think that's one of the things that distinguishes a champion from just a great or even an excellent performer competitor. I'm being careful not to use the word shooter because it's irrespective of the sport, really. Um, the ability to come from behind, in the critical moment, to flip that switch, whatever that mental switch is, that's what separates a true competitor, a true champion, from just a high level, even an excellent competitor, I think. So I think Jacob is one of those guys as well, right? Like he was able to flip that switch, and
Yeah.
what you say, he was 15th on day one or day two?
Yeah, he was 15th at the end of day one because I tracked day one and then I did an update and then I did day two and I went back and looked at my Excel spreadsheet and he was 15th and then he was fourth.
Yeah,
And
it's
then that
interesting.
obviously put him in position to get
Yeah,
where he got.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Did you notice how many people fit into a single percentage point at the end of the day because of the field is so large? Within, I think, 91%, there was like 7 or 8 people uh, within the 91% bracket.
Oh, no, I
Like,
didn't look at that.
take a look at that
Uh,
when you're playing with the numbers. How many people at the top level fit within a percentage? And you could be 12th, and you could be, I don't remember what the placings are, but you could
it
be
was
five or
6
six
of them.
spots. Yeah, like exactly six spots lower, while basically sharing the same spot, like 91%.
Yeah. 11 through 16 were all the 91 percentile mark.
Think about that. Think about that. And
Yeah.
and it's a huge number to fit because of the field, because of the caliber of talent. I mean, that's no joke. To be in 90%. I
Yeah.
mean, that's one of my goals. I don't know if I ever achieve it. To be in 90% at the nationals. And here you go. You have 7 people within the 91% bracket.
Yeah.
A lot of people,
15 points separated them. So there's 2.5 points between each person.
and that's not a whole lot at all. A lot of people
No.
don't pay attention to the percentage. They look at the placing. Oh, hey, I was fifth, or I was fourth, or whatever. But then you look at the percentages. Oh, you were 79%. Of the winner of the match. That speaks volumes about the skill as well. Not just the placement of the match, but the percentage of the
Uh,
winner, right?
well, and that's why when you and I were talking last night too on the phone, the biggest thing to me was JJ zeroed a stage. Zero points out of 120. And he was able to climb back into that top 90%.
It's insane.
Remarkable.
Well, I don't know if you remember what year it was. Jason Bradley got second place, and Max
Hmm.
Michel got first place, and my guy got
Yep.
second place at the Nationals. Are you freaking kidding me? But the difference between first and second place was, I think, 5.5%. And if you look at the value of any given stage because of the number of stages, I don't think there was a single stage that was worth more than 6%. So technically, Max could have zeroed a full stage, and still he would have won the Caryoptics Nationals that year. If you break down the match percentage points, so a difference of
Right.
5% between the first and the second place. He could not have zeroed like a 160-point stage, but he could have easily zeroed 100 or maybe even 120-point stage. I don't remember what the breakdown of numbers was. and he still would have won the match. So that percentage separation is another, or this, a very close second key performance indicator to me for a major match.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think you're right. I think that's probably underutilized for evaluating where people fall and how they perform.
Yeah.
Because if you look at Nils and Jacob, I mean, less than half a percentage point separated them, and less than 10 match points.
And I mean,
So
translate that into stage points, and what does that mean? What is, I mean, that's is it even a one less Charlie? I mean,
right,
it's nothing.
right,
It's not even a fumble to reload. Like, it's time wise, you can translate all that mathematically how much it costs you, and I'm sure these guys are doing all that. I'm like, oh my god, man, if I only drop one less Charlie, you know,
and I was looking at that because Nils was 11 seconds slower than Jacob and Christian,
hmm
but he had 8 more alphas than Jacob, and Jacob had a no shoot.
yeah,
So, so which one of those do you? So if you take away the no shoot, is Jacob now second? You know what I mean?
it's well, 11 second difference between 21 stages or 20 stages. You know, we have to look at like the individual stages. Where was that? Is it consistently half a second per stage, kind of a thing, or was it one specific stage that stood out? Where maybe, listen, I was on the super squad and I saw like these guys are not like they look like gods when they shoot their best days, but they all make mistakes. Every single one of them. I watched Niels go, miss steal, standing, Mason, all these guys. Everybody makes. It's how fast they recover. It's how well they recover. How well they can pick up the rest of the. But was there a specific stage where a critical mistake was made, or was it just across the the entire spread of stages? He was just half a second slow, but as a result of that, he was able to get more points, and it
Right.
translates to local matches as well. Like just the match I shot yesterday, we had over 100 people. I think 120, 115 people. Um, the guy who won the match, a tremendous shooter, Chris Gilnett. You might have heard his name. He's also from Area 8.
Yeah, he's been on here.
Yes, yeah, exactly. He had, I think, 3 mics, a procedural, but he was so much faster across the board that he was able to pull out a win. And I'm sure when he had those mics, like, oh my god, here goes my match. And he shot the staff match because these guys do Saturdays setup for a local and then 10 stages. Antoine is one of the best matches we have in
Wow.
Area 8, I think. So I'm sure he felt that way, but he was so much faster now. And then I look at my own times, and here I am, even at smaller matches, I am generally slower than second or third place, but my accuracy, and I have an injury, as I told you yesterday. I tore my Achilles tendon,
Yeah.
so I can't run much. So if I'm going to be slow, I might as well be accurate. Is what I joke about.
Right.
I shoot, like a couple of local matches I shot over the last couple of weeks. Alpha to Charlie ratio was something ridiculous, like 11 or 12. Maybe I think one match was like 14-1. So for every 14 alphas I shot, for every 11 alphas I shot, I had one Charlie. So I had like 115 alphas and I think 8 Charlies for the whole match, something along those lines, which is stupid. But what it illustrates is that it's still important to be accurate, even at
Yeah.
speed. Yes, speed, we favor the speed, but points matter. And Nils is one of the most accurate shooters at speed, right? Like if you look at his alpha to Charlie ratios, lack of errors as far as mics and no shoots, stuff like that.
Well, and when I wrote Christian down on the list of things I wanted to talk about, I keep looking over this way. It's because it's where my list and everything is. But the biggest thing I've been looking at is because I like looking at it like we're talking here. There's a couple of things I like looking at. Christian was the fastest shooter in the entire nationals, and he was also one of the most accurate. This dude had 18 more alphas than Nils, and he did it 11 seconds faster.
The kid
That's
is,
crazy.
I mean, there's no question. There's no question. I don't think whether you like him, whether you don't, I don't think anybody doubts the level of talent and the amount of work that was put in. So you have
Yeah.
a combination of a very talented performer, a very dedicated, athlete, and a very
Yeah.
smart young man who is going to be successful no matter where he goes. I've had some well-known guys who did not expect him to win the world title. In fact, they predicted that he's going to fall apart. And and these guys have a lot of experience. I mean, a lot. And I have to, listen to experience and kind of believe them. But what
Right.
we saw was completely opposite. And so here's another one who can flip that switch, perform on
Yep.
demand, come from behind, understand the math, understand the strategy. I mean, the highest possible level. We're talking about a world champion shooter, but guys like that come along every so often, right? Maybe Rob Latham was one of them. Maybe Nils Johnson is one of them. Here we have a very young individual who's going to be successful no matter what he does with his work ethic, with his level of talent. So he's going to stay on top if he wants to, and then somebody else is going to come. In another 10 years, there's going to be another young kid who's hungry, who's willing to put as much work, and there are guys like that who are working hard right now, just putting, JB, look at this guy. I follow him on Instagram. Amazing speed, right? And he did really well. So I think finished 10th or 11th.
10th.
Top,
Yeah.
exactly. In a field like this, I mean, that's
Yep.
tremendous.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing, the carrot here, the caveat is the fact that this is the deepest field of any nationals that they've had, So you had both of the two previous Open champions in Aaron Edens and Christian, world champion Christian. You had other world champs at this match, multiple national champions. I mean,
It's
you
tremendous.
couldn't ask for more experience. And that dude went, and he's only the fourth Carry Optics national champion ever, and the other three were there, and he won, and there was no choking, there was nothing. I mean, after day one, man, he owned that match.
I guess he had a plan and he executed it. I mean, I've listened to his interviews. You can't if you don't have the skill, if you don't have the technical skill, you cannot wish your way, or you cannot strong mind your way into a victory. But if you don't have all the components together, you might have the best technical skill. I would even, listen, I would even argue that given no time limit, given, some of the guys in the top 50, top 60 can do shooting, can shoot more accurately at distance than some of the top level guys, or at least as well, or no worse.
Right.
But given the time limit, given the match pressure, given the understanding of the strategy, that's what starts to separate everybody else. So this guy had the plan, had the talent, was able to put it together. And I mean, the level of preparation that goes, he described that went into preparation for the World Championships, and it's recently fresh. It's fairly fresh, right? It was recent, so he's coming off the top of the wave and still continuing to ride it into the Carry Optics Nationals. I think amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very few people in their lifetime will ever experience not even like finishing top 20, top 30 at the Nationals, let alone be a national champion. I mean, we can count them on our hand, 10 fingers maybe. So
Yeah.
it's amazing. It's truly it warrants a certain level of, I don't want to say admiration, but appreciation for the level of work that goes into that achievement in any sport, really, but specifically in our sport as well. So
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and getting back to what you were saying about, I would use generational shooters. You could say you had Rob Latham, then you had Nils, and now you have Christian. And yeah, 10 to 15 years from now, there will be another one. And it's just going to keep cycling through.
yeah, can you imagine Christian Seiler at 65 with the gut and bad knees, still winning nationals?
At this point, yeah. Oh man, that's
But listen,
funny.
Rob Latham had a personal hero. Nils Johnson probably had when he was young, when he was starting out. That guy also has been shooting for like 25 years, I think, right? When everybody was starting, they had their own, I don't want to say idols, but people they looked up to, people who were gods, back then. Rob Latham has been shooting, if not from day one, but from the early, and he was probably already second generation when he started shooting, right? If the sport was founded in 73, was it 73 or 74?
75,
75,
somewhere
maybe.
mid 70s.
Somewhere in those days.
Yeah.
the guys who were rock stars back then, he looked up to them, and then he became the rock star, and people started to look up to him. Now you got a
Yeah.
generation of kids who are saying, "Oh my God, Christian Sala, I want to be like that guy. I want to beat that guy." And now they're putting in, there could be an A-class guy or a B-class guy putting on that, coming from the nationals. He got crushed. Maybe he's like 400 something, but now he's putting on that belt and he's going dry fire right now. As he just got home and he's like, I'm fired up. I know what needs to be done, and he's working for it. Maybe in 5 years he's going to be the next national champion.
Yeah, could be. It's crazy. It's amazing
What
what
did
a
you
little bit
think?
of work will do.
What did you think? So, I mean, I wasn't there. All I saw was videos. What did you think about the range, about the facilities, as far as the stage design? There was a little bit of negative talk I've seen on the internet, as far as the stage designs and as far as the usage of those flat bays.
I was going to ask you if you had been there because I have not. And I don't know that I have seen enough video, especially overhead video, to see the entire setup of everything. And I will say, initially, like right before Nats, there was some negativity.
Mhm.
Like during the staff shoot, I saw a
Yeah.
couple negative comments about when Shannon Smith was shooting, and they posted a video of
Yes.
him,
Yes. Yes. Hmm.
but I heard nothing after that. So I don't know if it's like one of those things like once you get there and you're shooting, you don't care anymore. Um, but I have Tim Dundery coming on tomorrow night, and we're going to do a live one just to talk about everything at Cardinal Shooting Center and Nationals. And that's one of the things I want to ask him because he was one of the people that made a comment about, how narrow the bays were and everything was straightforward.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to find out myself.
I'll be curious to know what from what I've seen on the videos. There was a couple of little things, and you know, uh, that made me miss Talladega and Frostproof. How they had those. You've been to both of those places. You saw
Yep.
those the beautiful walls that they had, the fault lines. Everything was like it had a feel like it had a feeling of a major match. When I was watching some of these videos, it had a feeling like this is a really really cool local match. I saw the walls, I saw the wooden target stands, and that's what I see at local clubs. I don't see high level equipment like they had at Talladega and at Frostproof. Um, uh, you don't see those kind of props often. As far as the technicality of shooting or the challenge of shooting, that's what I would be curious because it's hard to tell in those videos. If the shooting challenge was adequate for a national level. But those flat bays were kind of exactly what you said is what I saw. So I was a little bit concerned. I don't know if I think they had a rule, or at least that's what I heard, that if the round goes into that side berm, it's a disqualification. Maybe I'm thinking of some other match, but
Oh wow.
it was a
Well,
bit of a
I feel like so they are looking that Cardinal Shooting Center. I mean, they are looking to be considered one of the world's best ranges, like hold
they're
anything
huge.
and everything.
Yeah,
So I could see them making improvements after improvement after improvement, and then getting to the point where it's like you want to be there because of the changes that they've made, and they have
right.
the space apparently. Everything I've talked to, they can handle anything. So I could see them getting more equipment, improving the bays even more. It's kind of short. They had less than a year to get everything ready because I mean they were ready by Buckeye Blast, which I think was what the beginning of May. So they were the very first major to hold to allow limited optics. So it was like the very
What's
first weekend in May.
sorry? What's limited optics?
What's
It's a
that?
joke. It's a joke. I don't recognize that division. Not
Okay.
at my match. I don't recognize that division. But
No.
no, I think you're right. I think you're right. And then speaking of as a match director myself, I appreciate the amount of work that goes into setting up a tremendously huge event like this. And I think people that complain about certain things need to understand how much of it is specifically USPSA responsibility. And I've been critical of the organization of USPSA, not the sport of USPSA, and how much of that responsibility is with the range, with the hosting facility. So, a contract is a contract, so you have to be honored. And it takes a lot of work to put things together, especially for a match of this caliber. So, I mean, I'll be there in October for production nationals. So hopefully we'll see. It's a tremendous facility, no question. I mean,
Right.
they have great. You can stay on the range. You can bring your camper. You can actually rent a cabin,
Yeah.
things like that. They have entertainment, facilities on site, so one could actually stay there. And I'm sure you can't drink beer until 10 p.m. or 11 p.m. Somebody might frown upon that, but the facilities are amazing. And so, you know, what a competitor and a match director in me wanted to see was those, great looking walls. And I saw partially painted barrels, which is what I do at my local match. And and maybe this is a good way to shift to conversation about local matches and things that we've been running local match with the idea of a lot of people don't go to major matches locally. A lot of people don't experience bigger stages. Some of the local clubs set up similar flat stages where you go box to box, things like that. So when we started running it in 2021, I think our first match was late October. I think we only did one match. So this our second, it's our third season, but second full season that we're running these matches. When we started doing it, the idea was that we're gonna, I go to a lot of major matches. My wife goes to a lot of major matches with me. She's a CRO. She has worked several major matches. She has worked the nationals, section matches. I think she worked an area match as well. So we're bringing this experience, and we have a lot of friends who do the same thing. So us running a local match in New York here, BlackRock USPSA to plug us, we started running it with the idea of like we're gonna bring this major match experience in terms of stage design, in terms of application of the rules, in terms of uploading the scores, paying the fees, all of these things like what you would expect from a level 2 and above match. And along those lines, so we'll go to a major match. Designing stages is one of the things that a lot of folks, have issues or problems with. Luckily, we have a database of stages on USPSA website that we can refer to. When I go to I'm inspired by people. When I go to a major match and there are great stages, Maryland State, Go Fast on Suck, Keanu and his team makes amazing stages. The national stages, there's some really great stages. Jared makes from Area 6. He makes some great stages. I'm inspired by these guys, so I don't want to reinvent the wheel. What I want to do is I want to be inspired by these great stages. I want to make some tweaks based on the equipment that we have at our club, maybe flip a few things around, but respect the idea of the original design and then put that stage on the ground, and give that experience of shooting a major match level stage to our local folks who don't really go to outside of 1 hour drive. So building good, and what does it involve to run a good local match? Well, you have to have one man cannot do this all, right? So I have a very good, very strong team of folks that I trust. We have a dedicated quartermaster, 2 of them. We have a financial officer. We have a co-match director who does the registrations, and then we have a really good setup crew who shows up. Sometimes on a Saturday. How do we get local folks to participate? I talk to a lot of local match directors, and they say, "Well, I don't have enough people to help me." Some smaller clubs, I have a couple of guys coming out, but I don't really know what to do, and I'm like, well, what do you offer them in return? If you show up on a Saturday to help me set up my match, first of all, we do an hour of training, before we even start setting up. So these guys get an hour of training. They're not members of the club, so they can come in. We can coach them, do like a mini class, do 2 specific drills, kind of coach them, kind of warm up. If we set up a classifier or something like that, they could practice on that a little bit as well. So we're giving this tangible, small little token of appreciation, and we actually have every single time we have 7 to 8 people that issue them pre-registration codes. If somebody else wants to show up early of the morning of the match, I'm there at 7 o'clock. If somebody shows up, hammer down at 10. Somebody shows up at 7:30, helps me finish setting up those stages. They get a pre-registration code. We're on a relatively small match. We try to keep it down to 48 people, and we sell out within minutes. Dave, I'm not lying to you. Yesterday, registration opened. We were sold out at 6:05. The registration opened at 6, sold out at 6:05. A couple months before, we sold out in 45 seconds. So guys from Connecticut, guys from New Jersey, and these guys travel to major matches as well. We have a bunch of crew from New Jersey. They'll go to local, they go to major matches, they go to nationals. They appreciate the level of thought that goes into it. I started doing this thing last year called the Rolling Range Master Program. I actually pitched it to one of my RMIs. The idea is that if somebody is dedicated to being a range officer, and they respect the rules, and they work these major matches, not everybody gets the experience of being a range master. It takes a long time to get to that point before you can even enter that program. Well, I know a couple of guys who are really good, solid ROs, CROs, that work these major matches. They have the same respect for the rules as I do. And what I offer to them, like, listen, guys, you'll come in, you'll show up, you act as a range master. If you make mistakes, that's fine. It's a local match. I'll help you out. Like, we're both the same level of experience, perhaps. You shoot the match for free, and you shoot through if you'd like, and then you just help me make those calls so that you learn how to be a range master. You take full responsibility, just like it is at a major match. Again, the same mentality, delivering a major match experience. Once I'm done with my match briefing, I turn it over to the range masters. All scoring calls, we do proper calibration at a local level 1 match. I actually have a box of calibration ammo that was made for me. We do calibration challenges. We don't reshoot classifiers. We try to instill good etiquette with the new shooters. We have a new shooter orientation briefing that is not quite a class that some folks do, which is an amazing thing. But we introduce them to the sport. We teach them etiquette. Not a lot of people, like, I did not know, for example, when I started shooting, that I'm expected to stay at the end of the match and break down stages. Some folks just get up and leave. They don't know any better. You're not supposed to walk the stage in front of the person who is on deck. Not a lot of people know this. Even experienced shooters make this mistake, and they do that. So scoring calls, not reshooting classifiers, things of that nature. Good etiquette that is not known to you until either somebody told you or you experienced it yourself. So why are we doing this? What's the point? Well, first, to deliver a good experience for our folks, right? Nobody's making money with this. But the idea in my head was 2 years ago when I was running for president is to change the culture. And I realized you can't change the culture from up top. It's impossible. But what we can do is we can change the culture and mentality at the local level. So if we promote this sportsmanship, if we promote the respect for the rules and good etiquette, I think that's a way to change local shooting culture for the better. So anyway,
Interesting ideas.
I've been talking about this. Yeah, and again, I gotta give a lot of credit to the guys that help out. I could not do this without them. It's so great to be able to trust your team. I have a stats guy who I trust to do I can do all the practice score stuff myself, but I don't have to, because I have a good person in place who knows all of this stuff. He does not. I don't have to do all the, reshoots is a hot topic, right? Well, how many reshoots you have, how many edits you have for the person. He takes care of that. He looks at it. People let me know if we have a reshoot, it has to be for a legitimate purpose. You can't just do a reshoot, even if it's a new shooter. Oh, well, his gun did not go off, we'll give him a reshoot. No, that's not how it works, and that's not what he should expect if he goes to a major match. So have a dedicated practice score stats guy. I have a dedicated finance officer who I don't have to worry about money. I don't even deal with money. I don't collect the fees. Everything. If I don't have to deal with all those headaches, then my responsibility to oversee all this stuff and design the stages, now I can deliver on my portion of the job. The quartermasters, we have 2 amazing guys who can be there and make one of my guys, Anthony, built the stages, build the walls in 1 day. He created 14 when we started running in 1 day. I'm like, oh my God, we have the best guys on our team helping out, showing up, setting up. So a lot of credit goes to them. As a matter of fact, now I'm finishing up the designs for our next weekend's match, trying to deliver on some of these bigger, the 4th of July match. My wife is doing all the decoration, all the flags and all the memorabilia. So it's going to be
Oh, cool.
And we're already full, and we already have like 60 people and like 12 people on the wait list. So
Good Lord.
I love doing it, man. In fact, in the last 2 years, as much as I hear these folks complain, how do you deal with these no-shows and the late registrations and this and that? I'm like, there's some irritating moments in the life of a match director. In fact, I'm thinking about doing this. I'm not sure if I will, but I created a channel, the Match Directors Corner, where we hear these conversations. USPSA should help out. local clubs. How can they help out? And we had some ideas in the past, right? But I think Ben Barry on his podcast shares some ideas how he runs his matches, his indoor matches, and some of the section matches. But I don't think there's enough content for folks that are thinking about stepping out. In fact, I think Time for Timmy, I think, is running his own match, right? He started doing it this year. It's
Yeah, I
another
think
top,
so.
for him as well. Things that he's learning. It took me 2 years to learn some of these things because I started this match. We were already Steel Challenge affiliated, but there was no USPSA. I had to go like, how does it work? Well, I had to go in front of the club board to say, hey, we have the right staff in place, ROs, CROs. This is our safety procedures, stuff like that. What's involved if somebody wants to step up and run a local match? But I find a lot of pleasure in this, Dave. I really do. Like it's almost more rewarding to me to set up and run this match than it is to go to a major match or to another match. And I don't know if it's a good thing, but like I want to be a grandmaster of running local matches in a way. And I'm being inspired by some of these major matches that I go to as far as stage designs, as far as the flow of things. So I enjoy this learning experience. How long am I going to continue doing it for another couple of years? But it's quite a great experience. I like it. I like it a lot.
So, okay, so I have a lot of questions, and I don't even know where to start or how to phrase them. But I'll start with Drew Maruski and I were talking. He's been sending me videos of targetry that they're getting ready for the Western Pennsylvania sectional.
I'll be there.
And there are steel targets on a rail that move, and they're falling steel. So they're like almost like a roller coaster rail, and you've got to engage these. They also had a paper target on a rail, and it was a swinging with a no shoot on
I
it.
saw those problems. That's amazing. I can't wait to see
Yeah,
it.
but so what I'm getting at is Pennsylvania seems to be very active in the practical shooting sport. Are how isolated are you from all the other clubs? Do you guys within the section talk? Do you share things, or how does that work?
That's a great question. So here's a little nuance. Uh, Technically, I'm in Pennsylvania as a shooter, as a participant. I live in Pennsylvania. The match that I run, when I started running it 3 years ago, we were still residents of New York State. So that club is part of a section within Area 7. Um, so as a match director, I'm an Area 7 match director. And where we are positioned on the map, we are very well strategically positioned, geographically positioned, that people from Connecticut can travel within an hour. People from New Jersey within an hour can travel less than an hour, actually, from upstate New York. And now technically from Pennsylvania, we come from Pennsylvania. So we draw quite a bit of participation. And I don't think we've ever had a problem with filling our match in New York State, even with 10-round limits. In Pennsylvania, I am on the border with right on the border with New York State, and most of the matches I go to, I have two or three local clubs within an hour, 20-minute drive from me, Factoryville and Holstead, and then I have Antolani, which is about 2.5 hours, which is probably the biggest match in Area 8. You're shooting a 10 stage match every single weekend. These guys are amazing. They put on,
Wow.
they actually have a staff day for every local match. Saturday is a staff day where a small crew of people come in, they set up the stages, they shoot that match, they leave the stages for the next day, for Sunday, where the main body of shooters comes in and shoot those 10 stages. And generally they have no less than 100 people. This match was 115 people, with a lot of folks, including one of the match directors, Anthony, going to the nationals to shoot the nationals. So generally there's 120, 130 people at that local match, a well-known match in Area 8, I think. So the section. So I'm kind of sort of a shooter, a competitor within Area 8, and I'm not really involved as much in the Area 8 coordination of things. But I am a match director within Area 7. Within Area 7, within my section of Area 7, we have, I think, 6 or 7 clubs. Frank Rizzi is local to me. He's the Area 7 director. He's actually the president of one of the clubs within the section. And our section coordinator is he's on Long Island, but we have those clubs on Long Island. I think we have 1 club on Long Island, 3 clubs in the city, including Frank Rizzi's club, and then my club. And then there was another club that stopped operating a couple of years ago. So the idea for the section for me was actually that's the topic I wanted to talk to you about is the usage of Jay's tool, which is the series, the points series, and
Right.
how it's been an idea for me even last year before Jay came out with his tool. But so the idea was there, and some people do it. And I know I spoke to Charlie Perez, who is the Big Panda Performance. He was a section coordinator, I think, for one of the, not sure it was Nebraska. He did this thing where the section, and this is the approach that's near and dear to my heart. You reward your participants through their performance. You reward them with national slots. So as a section coordinator who distributes the slots for the nationals, rather than give it to somebody. Okay, well, I know this guy. I love him. Here's a slot for you to go to the nationals. Or listen, maybe this guy is a great helper. He helps set up every single match. He wants to go national. These are valid ways, I guess, to distribute those slots. If the section coordinator distributes the slots to the clubs based on the number of activity points and things of that nature. But generally speaking, within the section of which I am the match director, we have a very big club, Lipsa. They host big matches as well. They generally have 100 people at their matches as well, 90, 80. Generally speaking, those bigger clubs will always get the section distributed slots. My local club, where I purposefully keep it down to 48 people per match. I don't aim to have more. We probably will never get a performance-based slot. Oh, I'm sorry, activity-based slot. So the idea is that the slots for the nationals are rewarded based on your section match performance. That's some of the folks have done it in the past. It's a lot of work for the section coordinator. It's a lot of work, granted. But what it promotes is that sportsmanship, that competitiveness, and how do you recognize that? Through the match performance at the section match. We don't really have a section match within our section. So what I was going to propose to our section, to our area director, which I haven't had a chance to do, unfortunately. Been trying to connect with them for almost 6 months, but it hasn't happened yet. But the idea was to start a season with a series of matches, qualified matches at every single club, and announce it up front that this month this club is hosting a qualifier match. The next month is the next club, and so forth. And at the end of this series of matches, qualified matches, out of 5 or 6, 3 or 4 are going to get recognized. And based on your performance at these matches through the point series, you will get awarded a slot to the nationals. Or if it's not, maybe people don't like that idea. You still get some kind of a recognition. Like, listen, you're a competitor. You travel to these matches. You earn your series points. You get some kind of a plaque, some level of recognition. And it's not a participation award. This is a performance award. So the idea is what do we do within the section, within the club, to promote sportsmanship? Not just people come in and they shoot a local match and they go home. What do we do to promote this as a sport at the local level? I think it's a great initiative, to be honest with you, and people have done this in the past, and we can all learn from that. We're not I haven't seen it in Area 8. The slots are distributed to the clubs, and the clubs reward them how they see fit. I have been a benefactor of that. I have received.
Me too.
I love it. It's great. I don't think I deserved it as far as being a helper or being a consistent performer. Luckily, for the last couple of years, I've been able to get my slot to the nationals through major match performance, like an area match, winning a slot or finishing well at the nationals. But there are guys who want to be recognized, and I know these guys. I see them. They train. They work hard. They care about their points on the stage. They will argue with you. No, that's a double, or no, that's yeah, okay, it is. But they're interested. They're interested in performing well, and at the end of the season, they get recognized, whether it's a national slot or whether it's a plaque for recognition of your performance throughout the series. And that's where the work you've been doing and Jay has been doing, and you've been using his tool, I think, comes in. As far as promoting this level of.
Well, and I think you could even, because like you said, not everybody's going to go to a nationals, and not everybody cares, but why not give them then a free slot to the whatever section that is in your area? Like for me, maybe they come down and say, Dave, since you did X, Y, and Z for the last year, we're going to give you a free slot basically a sponsored slot to the Delmarva sectional match. You don't have to pay, just come and shoot. That's your reward for, what you've done or whatever. So there are other ways, like you're saying.
And the beauty of that approach is that you don't need the board approval. You don't need to go to
Right.
the area director like, this is you. This is your match director response. This is your section as a section coordinator, which is arguably a more important job than an area director in some regards. As you know, there weren't no area directors, a few years back. Section coordinators are the guys on the ground. What are we doing to promote this sport? And I'm not talking about increasing membership numbers. I'm talking about promoting sportsmanship, competitiveness, increasing the skill level. What are we doing to do that? And it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. And if the section does not want to do it, even I, as a match director, I can do a match series, so within, 7 matches that are on per year, 6 of them or 5 of them are going to be recognized, as your performance. What else will it do? It'll increase the drive of an individual to come to my match. I will have there will be even more listen, I've shot 4 matches and I'm 5 points behind. If I go to this match, which is next month, I have to register for it. If I go, I'm not going to drive to Long Island because it's a 4-hour drive for me. But if I'm in the series and I see hey, I'm behind Rob Epifania, who's the best shooter in that area, he's beating me. If I don't show up to this match, I'm not going to win the series. I'm not going to get my slot to the nationals. I'm not going to get that plaque. I'm going to make the drive as an athlete, as a competitor. I'm going to make that effort to go and compete at a local level as a match director. If you're running this as a series of matches of just even your local club, I can still promote the sportsmanship by awarding these folks even a small plaque. Like doesn't cost. I don't need the board approval. That's the beauty of it. I don't need to go and call my area director or go in front of the board of USPSA and get approvals. All these little programs that change the sport for the better, I'm in control of that. Not as a president, not as an area. I can do that, and that's the beauty of it. That's where you have all the power as a match director.
And I think though that it would definitely help to have the area director's backing, because
for sure
then that's something he can talk about at board meetings, USPSA, and maybe grow it sport wide.
Absolutely. These are initiatives that have been discussed in the past. I haven't seen much movement. Local clubs take it upon themselves to make it happen. There are several local clubs that do introduction to USPSA, a 1-day class, like a 6-hour class. It costs money, but the person gets to come in, gets to understand the theory of the sport a little bit, then go do the practical exercise and actually shoot a couple of stages, an intro to the, we do a much smaller version of that where we just, talk about safety and things like that. And there's different, there's a scale of what's involved in this, but local clubs are doing it doing it themselves. USPSA as an organization should be coming up with some of these, initiatives, helping that's a tangible way to help a local club without spending a whole lot of money. And like you said, an area, like if I have the backing of an area director, this could be his initiative to take it to the board and say, hey, this is what I did in my area. I personally don't even need the credit for any of this, because as long as the sport grows, as long as people get what we want them to get as far as promoting the sport, I don't care who did it. I don't care who took the idea, who made it happen. But I have not seen a lot of there's a couple of sections that do it. I have not seen it locally at our level just yet. So hopefully maybe next season we can influence this.
And I don't think it would be all that troublesome for the section coordinator, because I'm sure, you could just create a section coordinator Gmail account and then use Google Docs and create a shared document.
It's still, and I spoke to Charlie Perez about it. He was kind enough to spend some time chit-chatting with me through emails, and we shared some ideas. The guy, it is a lot of work, and I have to respect, again, these are volunteer positions, and to do this, it's purely for the love of the game. And what Charlie is known for, and I've never met the guy, but I've seen his posts and I've read some of his things. He is known as, he's one of those guys. The mentality is the same. He wants to promote sportsmanship. You'll have him on your show one of these days, and he shares some of these things that went behind the scenes and all that. And it is a lot of work, and not just organizationally, but also politically, like to convince every match director within your section to participate in this. Right? Not everybody wants coordination of the actual matches. uploading the scores, tracking the scores. You've been using the spreadsheet. It's considerably easier now that Jay has created the tool, right? But
Yeah, very
before,
easy.
right? But before, it would have to be done manually and keep track of all of that. So
Right.
I think Charlie shared with me like it took 40 hours a month for him. Something I don't remember the numbers. Don't hold me, but like it was a considerable amount of work outside of his regular job to do this. So it is a level of investment that, but it takes a certain person to do it. So those who are already running matches, those who are already section coordinators, I feel that they already have the mentality that's needed to make this happen. But some people are in these elected positions simply because nobody else wanted to step up. So maybe they don't want to do it. But
Right.
it's
Yeah, I
an
mean,
effort.
you can do it in about 30 minutes now with J software.
Yes. Yeah.
So the that's why I say, if you are the section coordinator. So I'm the section coordinator, you're one of the match directors. If I talk to all of you and get all of you on board and show you how to use the software, then again, I create a shared document. You guys just update after each match, and then I can maintain an overall document and say, oh, well, here we go. Based on the input of these six guys, these six match directors, here's our top 10. You know what I mean? So it's not hard. It makes it much more manageable.
It assumes a certain level of experience and desire to do things from quite a few folks. We haven't had, we're supposed to have certain, within the section. It's good to have periodic calls and kind of coordinate certain things. You know, we don't really have that. I'm not sure if other sections have it, like where you get together on a call like this for an hour once a month, just like the board should do. Technically,
Yeah.
the match directors are the section's board, right? So we are the voting members or the voting authority for the section happenings. So if I were to, for example, host another USPSA match, ideally I would run it by the section coordinator saying, listen, this might interfere with another match. Does this work with you? That's his coordinating responsibility. But we don't really have that. I think we had one call last year. We haven't had one this year. So it takes quite a bit of doing. It takes quite a bit of coordinating, as the job implies, and assuming people know how to use computers, because not everybody is into computers. Some people have other businesses where they don't use that kind of stuff. So it is what I'm trying to highlight. It is a level of effort, and it's appreciated when somebody wants to do it. But it's coordinating 5 to 6 people who are match directors to get everybody on board at the same time. It does take work, and you know it may seem
Yeah.
simple to me and to you, and I agree. It's not that easy. It's not that difficult, but for some people, it's a bit of an effort.
Yeah, I think most of those people who don't use computers are being phased out by
Well, listen,
life.
you did a great you did yes, yeah, you did a great breakdown. I actually followed it, and I consider myself to be computer savvy. I've been working with computers for 20 years. I could have figured it out, but you create a wonderful manual. I'm like, why would I try to figure things out if they've already did all the work? So I copied your steps, and it was
That
up
was
and running within minutes.
that was Jay's work. I had him on to create a user
He,
manual for us.
yeah, and he's another great asset, who's doing this
Yes.
all this for free. That the organization like is not even trying to, like the ELO system, IPSC. You can go to ipsc.org, I think, slash rankings. They are using, I think, ELO system to track their performance, and you can see. I'm not sure if it has been updated in recent years, but you can see even the U.S. Shooters are being tracked there based on their world performances, and we could have, I would argue that the top 20 list that we have on USPSA website right now is, maybe it means something to some people, but it's much less relevant than if you had a ranking page where everybody's listed and you can see, hey, well, I'm ranked 900. I need to win a couple of major matches or whatever, however the system is going to work to step up to the next level. So,
Right. I'm
but
on
the
their
organization,
website. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
but the organization not even using, like they have these amazing people within the membership, and the organization is not even utilizing, not even reaching out to them. Maybe they are reaching, maybe behind the scenes something is happening to utilize all that work that Jay has done, all this helpful stuff that is helpful to the match directors to promote the sportsmanship, the organization is not really reaching out to capitalize on that. I'm not sure. Maybe they are. I don't know.
I clicked on the wrong thing. I'm trying to find the rankings, and I'm not seeing it in their drop down lists.
Go to ipscrating.com. I think that's the website.
Okay, let's try that. ESCrating.com. And boom, that was it. That's it right there. IPSC rating, and you can click on all the different divisions.
Mm-hmm.
Shocker, Eric Graffel is at the top
Amazing.
by 150. I'm sorry, 166 points. He's at the top. Goodness gracious.
And
Well,
our
Jacob
guys are on there.
Hetherington's fifth.
Well, yeah, but our guys are on there. You know, we don't shoot a lot of IPSC matches. Our guys are on there based on their, I guess, world championship performance and maybe some of the smaller matches, like level 4 matches. But you won't find your name or my name on there because we don't shoot IPSC matches.
Right.
But something
That's
like
just
this, something like this could be. Listen, I can't speak for Jay's interest, but somebody with a reasonable level of web development skill could totally put this together. You know, Jay already has the code. It would just be connecting certain things behind the scenes and presenting a, you know. And again, I'm trying to be very cautious about saying it's not a lot of work because we just talked about how much work goes into coordinating things. I know it's going to be a lot of work, but it's not like somebody would be starting from scratch. Somebody has already done a lot of work. There's code already available.
Right.
Somebody who has that interest, and Jay is one of those guys. And I know, like my stats guy, who is similar. He's a statistician by trade, and he's a developer by trade. You know, I don't know.
Is his nickname Competition Shooting Analytics?
He's a secret Russian guy that I cannot disclose his name.
All right. All right. I see how this is. He stole the election. He stole the election.
He could have.
What? I joke, but you have Jay, you have the gentleman behind Competition Shooting Analytics, who's already doing great work with classifiers and stuff like that. There are people in the organization
That's exactly my
who
point.
have this expertise, who can do it, and it wouldn't be. I say it wouldn't be difficult. Look, it's impossible for me.
And what are we
These
spending?
guys have the expertise.
And Dave, and I don't want to get into a tangent again, but like, and what is the organization spending their time on? They're spending their time on whether Alpha Dick is a thing that a range officer should use in his language or not, and they're spending their efforts discussing things in executive sessions. It's an embarrassment.
And technically, the word was penis, so is alpha penis.
Whatever it is, I mean, listen. What's the statistics of the executive sessions where HR matters have been discussed versus open discussions where the promotion of the sport has been discussed? If it's 50-50, I think the ratio is slightly off. If it's more than that, I think we're way off track. I think the organization needs to be focusing on promoting safeguard. Speaking of elections, I love what I heard from Luigi in his conversations, promoting the sport, promoting all these values versus controlling the HR matters and things of that nature, where people are trying to squash their vendettas. I mean, that's just the organization is in a embarrassing state right now. Let's just put it that way. And I think the way to get back to what we do best is to focus on the sport. And that's why I think we needed somebody, listen, I made it clear who I voted for. Strategic vote on my end. I like him in. I consider him a friend, a worthy competitor when we ran the presidential elections. What happened to him, I completely disagree with the way things were handled, considering the RO ratings and the Area 4 directors, lack of RO rating. The whole thing is just embarrassing. So my vote was for him, and I'm hoping that people that support the same, or people who disagree with the way things went, will vote for him as well. but at the end of it is going to be a runoff, and I'm hoping it's going to be between Luigi and Yemin, and then my vote will probably change. But right now, I'm voting for Yemin as a president because of the things that were done to him. I feel unfairly and unjustly by the organization.
Okay.
Point being, the way we get back to the good stuff is by focusing on the sport and not on the political
On what
stuff.
matters.
Yes,
And
that's
look,
what
there are other matters that do. There's two things that matter: the sport and the finances. I mean, so there are things that matter, obviously, but yeah, the one thing that we can all, I can't even say that. I was going to say the one thing we can all agree on is the sport, but I mean, we
I would.
all, limited optics is a disagreement.
I don't. Listen.
Flashlights.
That's the other power of a local match director. I do not recognize limited optics as a legitimate division. I'm not gonna recognize, and it's the power that a local match director has. I simply am not
Right.
recognizing it as a division. You cannot. You can still shoot the gun if you want, and but I'm not doing. I'm not. Uh, uh, but the
So,
but
so
go ahead.
open then? If they shoot limited
Yeah,
optics, it's open.
you can shoot. Yeah, shoot in the open.
Okay.
Perfectly legitimate. Um, but I would even argue to your early point. I would even argue that if we focus on the sport, the financials are going to be stable. If we all apply these principles, the sportsmanship, the ethics within that we apply within the sport to the way we do business, and we disclose the financials, and even if it's bad news, the truth shall set you free. And then we start from scratch and we start focusing on the sport specifically. You know, the financials will be just fine. We are running a no. We can't lose with this business. I mean, look at me. I'm running a local match, and I'm like, I want people at my match, but I don't need them at my match. I want people. We expanding the base, and hopefully we can accommodate more people. But the idea is that we want to be in a position where we want more business, but we don't really need it. And I think the business of practical shooting is it's amazing. We don't need to worry about the financials if we focus on the sport, if we promote the sport. So,
You said expanding bays. Did you hear CMP's adding 5 more bays?
well, I love that. Listen, I want to go to Ohio. I want to see the place. Obviously, it's actually a drive for me. It's not a flight, so I can get there. I think it's an 8-hour drive, versus flying to Atlanta or to Florida. So I would much rather drive and bring stuff with me than to
Yeah.
fly. But CMP, wonderful, amazing facilities, nothing to do locally. Uh, I want to see what
Nothing.
Ohio has. Nothing. You've been there, you know this.
Yeah, horrible. I mean, you can't even eat there half the time because if in the actual Talladega, there's like nothing open after like 6 or 7 p.m.
Yeah,
You know, so that's a pain in the butt.
yeah.
But I thought that was interesting that they're adding 5 more bays because, look, and I know that Todd Jarrett's been on here and he doesn't feel that you need. He's got way more shooting experience than me. He's shot way more world championships, national championships, whatever. But he doesn't feel that you need 20 stages for a good national championship. Personally,
How many
I want
stages does he?
20.
20? No, how many stages does he feel that we need?
He feels that you could do a good national championship at an area match. So 10 to 12 stages.
Well,
in a
maybe that's
single
why.
day.
Yeah. Well, I clearly don't agree with Todd Jarrett and the things that he worried about as far as the code of conduct, where he wants to tell people what to do on and off the range.
Well,
So
and
I disagree with him on this idea as well, is what I'm saying.
here's a little more backstory to that, okay? Because I had been hearing some things, and he had mentioned something off air. He said, I can't discuss it, any details. He said, but something happened at CMP Talladega that was bad. And I reached out to a few people and found out that there was an incident, I guess around Steel Challenge time at CMP, with some inappropriate behavior between a male and a female that was not wanted. And I'm not sure if there was a formal complaint made, but there were some things being looked into. And that's the issue. That's why he brought that up. I'm not saying what he is saying is right or wrong. I'm just saying there is something that occurred that was the driving force behind why he was saying it.
Help me out. The reason for what occurred as far as USPSA not being welcome at CMP?
No, it's just one of those things where I think what he's looking at by code of conduct is there's an
Oh, oh,
expectation of behavior of shooters if you're on the range facility at all, whether you're shooting a match or not. If you're there and you're on the range facility. Now, what you do off the range, I don't know, unless it's. I mean, look, if you're doing obviously if you're doing felonious activity and you can't have a gun, then
but it's
then you
listen,
shouldn't be a member.
it's
But
well,
it,
but
it,
but here's the thing: it's not up to me as a local match director, and it's not up to the organization to tell people what to do. This is un-American. This is brown. This is borderline brown shirt kind of stuff where somebody is telling me what needs to be done and how to behave. Listen, if you want to pay me $1 million a year to be a professional athlete, I will sign your code of conduct. Until then, sir, I'm sorry. This is un-American to tell people what to do, especially if they're not, professional athletes. So I stand against the code of conduct. I think we all should be accountable to ourselves as professionals, however we want to treat ourselves. But I do not want some organization to whom I pay money, to whom I submit my activity fees, to tell me what I need to do to police my local shooters. That's just not going to happen. I don't
oh
know how.
yeah, I agree there. And I think match books or local, the rules you have for your local match would cover what you need. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's not something that I can get on board with. And we gave Yemin quite a bit of flack when he was running on his code of conduct, and it's not a thing that I was on board with back then, and I'm definitely not going to be. With all due respect to Todd Jarrett's level of experience and history in shooting sports, it's not something that I can get behind.
Yeah, Yi Min caught a lot of flack for that.
It's
So
just it's not
yeah,
a thing that's even applicable to the current situation. But
right.
I apologize for the noise if something's coming through.
Is that a plane
I got a
or a
lawnmower going.
vacuum?
A professional
Oh,
lawnmower.
okay. You got your Roomba lawnmower going.
The yeah the lawnmower guy got over, and I was saying I hope he doesn't get here until afternoon. But my apologies, Dave. Is it super loud?
It's not that bad. I can hear you just fine.
Okay.
Um, Now let's go back to elections for a minute because we were talking about nationals at Cardinal Shooting Center, and I feel like their first time there, they're kind of new to the whole practical shooting thing. Anyway, I think Corey said they're only like 2 years old as an organization holding USPSA matches. So whoever gets elected comes in January.
Hmm.
I don't know. I didn't see. Normally, they announce where nationals are next year, and I haven't seen anything. Have you?
I don't think I have. The only thing, yeah, nothing as far as nationals. No, it's I think it's a tough situation for somebody who comes in as a fresh president. I mean, was it Ben Berry or I think it was Ben Berry who was discussing the topic that we've had five presidents in the span of 2 years or a little bit more maybe. It's going to be a tough situation for the new incoming president as a match director for the Nationals. I think you'll have to rely on the experience of whoever was running and designing the previous Nationals,
That was
and
Jake, and
really,
I heard
Jake,
Jake's
yeah,
not
Jake,
doing it
and
after this year.
yeah, these are conversations. I mean, I cannot really speculate on that. Even if I've heard something, it hasn't been from reputable sources. I'll probably have even less information than you have. But I would imagine if I were to step into those shoes, I would not want to make those decisions. I would have to see like, well, where are we? Who can run it, kind of a thing, and then trust those
And
folks to be able to do that for at
Manny
least the
just
next time.
commented that they're probably going to release the national schedule for 2024 in September, October, which makes sense. I Manny, and that's what I was thinking. But at the same time, that means Carry Optics Nationals won't be in June. because they're going to try to give you a full year. It could be in June. I mean, that's what they did last year, but they waited till Carry Optics Nationals to tell everybody.
Yeah,
But I feel like there's probably going to be a runoff with the presidential elections.
for sure.
So we're looking at July, August to September. So maybe October, they'll know who wins. I almost feel like whoever's going to be the next president is going to have to be caught up to speed before January 1 in order to put in the necessary time and effort and work. Let's say it's at Cardinal again, because I don't know where it's going to be, but I know they like to do more than 1 year at a time. So let's assume it's at Cardinal again. Then for that person to get with the crew at Cardinal and start planning and devising and figuring out what equipment and what they're looking to do, that's a lot of work.
A lot of work. Yeah,
I'm not sure. Yeah. I feel like, especially, I mean, there's two main functions, the board agenda and nationals, and the bigger one, that people are going to see is going to be
the
nationals.
Nationals. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
So it'll be interesting with, like we talked earlier, the lack of, say, equipment, because it's so new. The bays are still new, probably still going to be making improvements there. Who knows what type of logistics and coordination that's going to take to make it even better for next year.
I think even the strongest critics of the Nationals understand that it is a great level of work, and it's not just one person, and it's not just the organization of USPSA. It's the host range. It's a lot of other people that are involved, and it's not an excuse for not having a great national. It's just an understanding of, the external factors that might affect the quality of a match or the certain expectations. And again, I'm not trying to, I'm not an apologist for anything that the organization does, but at the same time, as a match director myself, understanding how much work goes into just a local match, I can only imagine how much effort goes into a level three and the nationals organization. So having all these things happening at the same time, understanding that the new president is going to be coming in and he's only going to have a few months to get ready for nationals. One of the things the organization could do potentially to ease the transition is to get the runners off involved a little bit earlier. Assuming it's going to be Yimin and Luigi, a good thing to do would be to get them onboarded earlier, even if, like, without disclosing any sensitive information that perhaps an outsider of the organization may not have access to. Simply help them coordinate the managerial aspects, or certain high level details, so that they can start thinking about, hey, I'm coming in on the
Yeah.
1st of January, but I'm already prepared. I mean, that's just a normal business transition when a new individual
Yeah.
comes on board. When somebody change a command in Marine Corps, changing command, like, these people are getting, like, they're not coming in day one like, oh shit, here I am, what do I do? No, they're well
Right.
prepared. The level of transition that's happening. So it would be in the interest of the organization and the membership to have these guys, the runners off, kind of be plugged in a little bit earlier at their convenience as well, because they're not really obligated to do this, but I'm sure they would want to be involved. Like, hey, this is what our contracts are looking like, without the finance of it. But like, we are planned to be scheduled, we're scheduled for these matches at these locations. These are the key personnel people. Jump on a couple of calls here and there with discussing certain details that might be helpful to you when you come into the office on January 1st. I mean, there's nothing wrong. There's nothing that's being disclosed, but it gives them that level of information that would be helpful for them when they actually assume office, and that would be smart management, I think.
Yeah, I mean, and you may have had the same conversation with Yi Min. He and I have had multiple conversations, just personal conversations, and there's no turnover file. Like you said, when you have a change of command, there's a whole set of binders or documents to show you how everything's done, what you need to do for this, and there's none of that. So if they know October 1, then they need to start including that individual so they can get ramped up. So January 1, they're not walking into it cold. They're already like, "Meh, I've been
Yep,
kind of doing this for 2 months, so or three
absolutely.
months." Yeah,
And that would seem to me like a logical thing to do to help the next person within leadership role to ease their transition and make things smoother for everybody. Who knows? I I am an optimist, and I'm hopeful that logic will prevail.
yeah. I mean, I've got a lot of hope for stuff too. So, and I haven't had, I just made it public yesterday that I had applied for a media badge,
All right.
and I had a single communication with Jake afterwards, and then never heard anything again. That was back in April.
Well, I
So,
mean, to your point, if Jake is not doing, and again, I hate to be speculating, but if Jake is not doing the next nationals, maybe his level of interest of transitioning this to not transitioning, but like facility. I mean, listen, what you've done. We spoke about this yesterday when you were live streaming the scores. Imagine if you were sitting in front of your computer, you had access to a couple of cameras, and you could track the performance of a super squad, the latest super squad, or the Cariatric super squad A and super squad B, and you could, with your level of understanding of the game, with your level of understanding of strategy, of all the names and all these things, be able to make that live commentary with the video in the corner where you can switch between camera. Like, hey, we just saw what happened. Jacob needs to win this stage by at least 10 points. Let's see how he does. We're going to switch to the camera with a bit of a delay in the programming so you can catch up and stuff like that.
right.
But imagine if you were that person, like, because you clearly have the interest. You have the interest. You have the knowledge, right? I don't know if you have the time, but you
I
might
would
be
make the
interested in doing
time.
it. You would make. I know you would. So it would be in the interest of the organization to utilize the resources that are available. That maybe not free of charge, but like maybe people can do it for something that you know. I know the organization is paying money to the company that's making those short videos, and these are great, and these are great representations of little time frames within that match. But imagine if you could be the commentator, the official commentator, and whoever wants to tune in live, and you do it, 2 hours a day or whatever it is, specific times at the critical moments, and with your understanding of the game and the scoring and the strategy, you're making comments and you're making predictions. Maybe even Jay could be included. You could work with Jay where he does the real time calculations of his predictions, and then the two of you discuss as kind of like Ultimate Fighting Championship commentary,
There you go.
or stuff like that. But that would be a legitimate way of, like, people have been talking about streaming the nationals. Streaming the video feed without commentary is actually boring. Let's face it. Like, unless you know who's shooting,
Right.
But with proper commentary of people who are plugged in, who know the names, who know the strategy, it will be much more interesting.
Yeah, and after doing what I did yesterday, I've modified my thinking too. Like, I think Friday and Saturday are going to be somewhat boring. Are going to be storylines, but again, I think the ESPN Sports Center update at the end of day 2 is the way to do that, and then set up cameras on the last 3 stages of, you can already look at the standings, you can already see who's leading, you can already trend who's gonna win, who's in contention, who isn't, and then you can set up cameras on those last 3 stages. Like, so
Yep,
yesterday would have been 19, 20, and 21,
absolutely.
and then see what happens. And then, like you said, then it's a quick and easy. It's only the last 2 hours of the match where the drama's building, 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 and then you can kind of go back and forth.
Yeah, and to counterbalance, like there's a lot of work that goes into coordinating these matches. So if there are volunteers like yourself, like whoever might want to, do it, the organization should capitalize on that. These are the resources that the membership can share to give back
Yeah.
to the sport if they're willing to do it. There's no reason for the organization not to use those resources. Listen, we're in 2023, right? We should have a live feed of some kind. It's like
Yeah.
not like
Of
it's not like
whatever it looks like.
1920 listening to radio. Yeah, yeah. So uh, finance, the financial aspect of it is a big one to discuss. how much does it cost the organization? Are they willing in this difficult time of turmoil to share or to spend more resources on this? But if it's a low cost solution, even if it's a trial version of it. I mean, it has been done in the past. I think last year or the year before they were running some of these live feeds. I think Rick, the director of IT of the organization. So there is already a level of experience of doing some of these things. It's just connecting the dot. Like it's
Yeah.
not a lift from the ground up. Like a lot of work has been done already, and it's just plugging in the right resource. And that's what, in a way, I think the role of a good leader is. It's not doing everything themselves. So if Luigi becomes the president and he's run these matches before and he's a high level competitor, he knows you, he knows Rick, he can connect the resources together, he can facilitate some of these things. That's a role of a good leader. The good leader is not somebody who does everything himself. In fact, I would say that's a poor leadership trait when somebody is willing to jump on every single task and then spread themselves thin. But using the resources, connecting them, giving them the right opportunity to do that thing is what a good leader should be about. So maybe next year is the year of change. Like I said, I'm hopeful.
Yeah, you just gave me an idea. I mean, I would do it just to be able to shoot stat. If I could shoot with the staff, then I'd be available the other 3 days to be able to
Excellent.
do this type of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'd be willing to do that. That would be
So
I,
so
and
so
the
that this what would
benefits are
do.
there.
Let's do this. Put up a poll on your social media, and you know how we collect petitions for when you want to run for Area 8 or for president. You get the petition, you get the signatures. I will personally sign it to grant you the media badge and give you the media credentials, and then we can send it to the board and say, hey guys, this is what we, the membership, would like to have done. And we, the membership, are taking the bulk of the work upon ourselves. Please give us a way to do it for you, for the sport. Um, and I will bring it. I will personally bring it to my area director, and you can. Well, my area director, I guess, is now Area 8. But I will
Right.
ask Frank Rizzi to raise this as a topic of discussion, and hopefully another person will second that motion, and they can discuss it, and then we can hold our directors accountable to their voices. If somebody seconds the motion, grant the media badges or the media credentials to help this uh, initiative. Let them vote on this. This is not an executive session, and this is how we hold our elected representatives accountable for some of these initiatives. Instead of focusing, like I said, instead of focusing on executive sessions and people management, perhaps it's time for us to focus on promoting the sport. And this is a great initiative. People have been talking about it for how long now? Like the topic of live streaming has been alive as long as I remember. So
Yeah, and it's not difficult. Like you said, I mean, it's 2023. The technology just keeps getting better and better. And I know they had the because Jay made that post, Flatty McDish face or something, where they had the satellite. What's Elon Musk's
yeah, Starlink.
Starlink? So they obviously had the connection. They had what they needed, so it wouldn't be difficult.
Well, you're right. You're right. And here's the thing. So we have the benefactors. A lot of people are, have been boasting their benefactor numbers recently, and it's what is it, $1,000 donation to the organization, to the financials. Where does that money go? What if I wanted to become a benefactor to the organization and pay that $1,000 fee for a life membership, which I'm not planning to do, but if I were, what if the stipulation would be I want this money to be spent specifically on equipment that will allow the nationals to be able to stream. That's $1,000. For $1,000, you can get that Starlink system. You can pay the monthly fee and you can have the setup. So, and then you have Bill Duda, who's been doing the live scoring forever. That technology is already in place. So, you know, if a benefactor steps up and says, well, I would like to donate money to the organization, but I want to know where my money is going, and I would like this money to go to this specific initiative. And then you have not quite a Kickstarter kind of a thing, but you have a fund of money that's being dedicated specifically to making the sport better. Because right now, I don't know where my life membership dues are going. They're just going into the big, giant, coffer of money that we have
Right.
no idea. Since 2021, the financials have not been released. I have no idea where that money is going. But, you know, if somebody wanted to donate that money to the organization, give them the ability to, stipulate where that money should be spent.
Yeah, it can't be too hard.
And here's the other thing: we have a lot of folks. I don't listen to them much, but like we have a lot of folks that boast, their not wealth, but their well-to-do status. If you want to, and then they complain about the organizational capabilities. Well, how about this? How about you start a program, and you don't make the first donation, and then all the things that you've complained about, uh, collect that money and give it to the organization in order to get those services. People have been complaining about live streaming. What's involved? This is what's involved. This is the number of this is the equipment that's involved. This is how much money is going to cost. They'll start a Kickstarter program, and the stipulation is that money is going specifically into that project. So within the membership, there are folks that I'll donate money. I'll be the first one to say, hey, if this money is going to where I want it to go, here it is, like right there on the table. I will donate the first $100, the first $500 to that project. But if the money is going to somebody or to something that I have no idea where it's going, I'm much less likely to do that.
Yeah, me too.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, I actually quit the my firefighter union because they couldn't guarantee me my money wouldn't go to a Democratic candidate. And I'm like, well, then I can't give you my money because I'm not going to give my money to somebody who I consider to be anti-constitutional. So I can't do
That's
that.
that's why we
So,
left New York, because I'm not going to support my jailers. I'm not going to pay taxes to people who don't want me there.
right. Yeah, completely get it. So the other shooter that I wanted to discuss or yeah, before we close that out completely, is Max Michel. He was top four the first couple of days and then dropped significantly on day three. Still very high level shooter, but I think his number one days are over.
You think it's based on the level of competition and talent that's continuing to develop, or is it based on
Yeah.
his age and abilities?
I think it's a combination of the two. He's still very quick. He's still very accurate, but I think the game and the talent has caught up. So, and he's not at this point, he's not going to get any more athletic than he has been. You know what I mean? So I feel like he's going to be a perennial top 10 for a while. But
But he's not
I
even.
don't think,
Is he? He's not even 50 yet, right? He's in his early 40s.
yeah, I'm not sure his exact age, but yeah, but that brings up the question, I mean, I know we were laughing earlier because Rob Latham won a national championship at like 61,
Yeah.
but at the same time, um, he's not going to do that in carry optics. He's not going to do that in open, limited production. You know what I mean? Where the competition is younger, more fleet
Yeah.
of foot type thing.
I mean, it's a,
So
it's a age long question of all the champions. At what
41.
point, like, I mean, Eric Gruffel is gonna, if he hasn't faced that question internally, I would be surprised, and I think he's said something along those lines. At what point do you decide to stay, like, because a competitor switch? You remember that Rocky movie when Apollo Creed was talking to Rocky, and he goes, "The warrior switch is not like, it's not an on and off thing. It's always on. Like, you can't just flip it on and off and not be a competitor when you don't want to be." So for somebody who's been on top, who's been competitive his entire life, it's so difficult to accept
Yeah.
your body's limitation. Listen, I just turned 49 last week. I'm well aware of the limitations of your body, and even though I finished
Yeah.
top 10 and top 12, I know I'm just a filler on the super squad. There's no possible physical chance for me to ever win the nationals. But it's difficult to give up, the idea that you still can be competitive with the people who are half your age, right? So for somebody who has been on top for so many years, for somebody who has been competitive and successful for so many years, how difficult it is to accept those things and to live with that. It's an interesting question, and only Max Michel can answer that question. Only Eric Garfield can answer that question. And any champion who has faced those things, seeing the young crowd, I agree with you. I think the level of the game has stepped up tremendously. I mean, you look at any sport. I used to play poker, and the level of the game of the 1980s and the 1990s, you probably couldn't even stand a chance with the modern day generation, where people are using games theory, strategy, odds calculations, things like that. People used to play with a gut feeling or ability to read another person. Now they use math and they're winning consistently. And the same thing with the evolution of the sport. The new blood comes up. The resources are available. People are not making mistakes. Like if somebody who is a world champion now, after 20 years, they probably spent first 5-6 years just figuring things out. Right now, why I consider myself to be a success in shooting after 3 years making grandmaster and being on the super squad. I consider that a great level of success for myself. But how did I get there? I did not make wrong turns in the process, because I started at 45, I think, or 44, and I knew I did not have the time to make mistakes. I chose the right path going forward because the right resources were available to me, and I was smart enough to use the right technique for training, along with the knowledge of the trainer that was shared with me through online media, through books, whatever. And so now the young guys who are way more athletic than me, way sharper, way more physical, they have all those resources that weren't available even 5 years ago. They have all of that within, like, just on YouTube. You can learn how to shoot really well at a very high level just from YouTube. So the level of the game has been raised tremendously, and that's a contribution that we can name specific names, like Ben Stagger, like some of these guys that have shared their videos online for free as resources for people. You don't have to pay to be a paid member of a training group, or get digital coaching online for a fee. You can just download a class and listen to what's being said. You can buy a book, and if you know how to apply those learning principles, you can get great results within a year, whatever the age. You may not be a national champion if you start at 40, but guys that are starting at 15 or 20, using those principles, knowing how to learn, I mean, you'll have more Christian Silers in the next 10 years, or the level of competition is going to go that much higher because of all these resources being available. So for Max Michel to recognize that, I mean, I'm sure he's faced these questions, dude, and it's not easy. It's not, when your body is no longer what it was 20 years ago, right? So
Yeah, and he's not an old guy. He's 41.
no.
Eric is 43. I'm just saying, from a competition standpoint and looking over the last 3 years now, JJ won. JJ broke his string at 5. Then Nils won. Now Christian is 1, and he was top 3. Now he's not even top 5. I think we're at that point now where we have to seriously look at other people as the favorites to be top 3, and no longer Max Michel.
I
Still
see
a
what you're
great
saying.
competitor, wins area matches, still that type of thing. So still very high level. But yeah, I just think that time and competition has closed that gap.
Yeah, and to your point, as far as physicality, there could be more physical, more athletic young guys coming up, but they don't have the experience that these guys have. As far
Right.
as the strategy, as far as ability to to push where they need to push, how to use the scoring to their advantage. Take that lead and kind of ride the wave, so to speak, rather than having to push. They might be more athletic. They might be more. They might be able to beat Max Michel or a Jacob Hetherington at a local match. They might even keep up with them. But when it comes to larger matches, and that's where I think, to the point of being able to run a national level match at an area, 12 stages for the nationals, you have to have this spread. Why does IPSC run these 4 and 5 day matches? At level 4, it's a 4 day match. Level 5, the World Championship, it's a 5 day match. It's because it spreads out that level of error, right? If you zero one stage, that stage is only worth 2% of the match points. You cannot just tank the entire match if you mess up on one stage, if you make an error. So, but at a local match, where each stage is worth 20 or 25% of the match points. You tank that one stage, you're done. Like there's no chance you can catch up,
Right.
right? So to have a national level match with less than 18 or 20 stages, I mean, you simply are you making it more of a crapshoot or a gambling game for a lot of folks because one mistake throws out the best shooter out of the game completely. You know, look, and I guess a hypothetical example would be, let's say JJ zeroed at one stage. Let's say there were 9 more stages to go, and now we spread out or thin out the percentage of those match points that stage was worth. Maybe now he has a chance to be top 3 because on the next 10 stages he's going to push to his limit and maybe he's going to hook up, and now he can minimize that 120-point loss to a point where he's only 5% instead of 10% off the top spot. So
Yeah, and if that was a 60-point stage instead of a 120-point stage, I mean, he's top 10.
exactly,
Yeah.
probably in contention to even win the match. Like I was saying, a few years ago, Max Michel could have zeroed an 80-point or 90-point stage, and he still would have won the match by a percentage point. So, but that's why I think we need bigger matches for these larger titles, rather than So the ability to back to the point of more talented, more physical shooters, more capable shooters who do not have the strategic mindset developed over time by the Nilses, by the Maxes, and by the Rob Lathams. That strategy, like you can't learn it. You may be able to learn it if somebody explains it to you, but ability to process it and then to apply it, that takes years of practice of shooting those major matches, I think. And that's where a match goes on top.
I pulled it up because I shot that nationals. That was my first nationals. That was when I zeroed a stage with the same problem JJ had.
So what you're saying is you're just as good as Max Michel at zeroing, as JJ Ricasa at zeroing stages.
Right. I am a GM at zeroing stages. Take that, JJ. But yeah, Bradley or Jason was 94.4% of max.
And then so then look at a value, a percentage value of any medium to large stage. It's probably like 4%, 3%, 3.7, 3.8, 4.2%, right?
It would be, yeah. I would have to probably look it up on the practice score app.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's.
So he could have, think about it. Max Michel back then could have zeroed a full stage and he still would have won the Nationals by a percentage point.
Yeah. That was the last one he won. That was also the match, if I remember correctly. He had a terrible first day. He was like 7th at the end of day 1. And then won 6 or 7 straight stages. Let me click on them real quick here. Yeah. So he shot stages 1 through 6 on day 1 and had a horrible stage 6. He was 121st. Stage 7, he won. Stage 8, he was 2nd. Then he won stages 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. And put the match away. That was pretty much it right there.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I mean, that's the strategy. That's the high-level strategy of the high-performance shooters. Gain the advantage on day 1 and kind of ride it. Don't do anything stupid. Just shoot the match. Let other people chase you and make mistakes. If you're able to secure that lead on day 1, it makes it that much easier for you to kind of be confident that you don't need to push on this stage to win those 10 points back, right?
Right.
I remember. I think it was last year or the year before. I was watching the Super Squad shoot, and I knew Mason was behind. And I think it was last year, yeah, behind a couple of points. And he's the guy I'm rooting for because he was local to Area 7. I like the guy. His analytical approach to things, and I know he's thinking about the math. And I asked him, and there was a stage where I saw a couple of options where a guy at his level could potentially take some chances and to gain those 15. He was 15 points behind. I'm like, all right, on this stage, I'm doing my own practice in math. I think on this stage he could push on this particular target and on that one. let me go validate it with him. So I asked him, I'm like, Mason, where do you think on this stage you might want to push? So you're sitting 15 points behind right now. Where do you think you can find an extra 7 or 10 points on this stage, on which targets? His answer surprised me. He says, if I just shoot to my ability, I won't have to worry about picking up those points because the other guys are going to make mistakes instead. So, maybe he was a little bit more in his own mind. I don't know, but that's the strategy that they use. Like, hey, gain the lead on day one, and then just don't make mistakes going forward. Let other people catch up, because as you start catching up, trying to push things, you are much more likely to make mistakes.
Right.
And therefore,
Yeah.
you starting to gamble now. You starting to roll the dice to see if you can get lucky on this stage. You don't have to, because you're already in the leadership. So for Max to come back from behind to be able to push to regain that lead must have been quite a bit of a push, right? Same for Jacob
Yeah.
to get back into the lead after day one. Oh no, so sorry to get into top 5 after day one.
But yeah, and I mean, again, going back to what you just said, though, maybe the pep talk Max gave himself that night was just, look, you got out of your game, shoot your
If
game.
yeah, if what was that show? Was it Hot Shots, the TV show that
Top
was
Shot.
Top Shot? No, it wasn't.
Oh,
It was like a series of episodes where they were covering the World Shoot with Max Michel, Casey Eusebio from, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago.
oh, I don't know.
It's on YouTube. I'll send you the link. I think it was Hot Shots. It's like a series of I forget who made it, but it was a professionally produced show where they followed the super squad level guys across a season of different matches. I think there was there were several different sports. USPSA was one of them. I think Steel Challenge they covered a little bit. I think Three Gun they covered a little bit, and they followed these top level guys through their season in preparation for the World Shoot. And Max Michel was one of the guys who they featured for the USPSA, and they showed his thinking process behind the scenes when he tanked. Like, he had a couple of mics on a swinger and he got all mad, and they pulled the target, sir. We got to get the range master. The range master comes in, he makes the call. It's alpha mic. Then Max has another mic, and he's frustrated with it, beyond frustration, just trying to pull himself together after those frustrating moments. It's an interesting, almost like an inside look into a mindset of a world champion and how they deal with those situations. I'll send you the link later, so you can.
Okay.
I'm surprised you haven't seen this. You're going to love it, man. You're absolutely going to love it.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to watch that. I have not seen that. Now, I'm gonna switch topics completely on you, and we're gonna go back to your Russian friend.
Which
And
one?
what in the world is going on in Russia with this coup or attempted
Oh, man.
coup, or what in the world?
Dude, I don't know which topic is hotter right now. The board and elections. I feel like this is a spicy topic that I'm not sure. I'm neither qualified nor prepared to touch.
Well, I mean, we had briefly spoken at the beginning of the whole Ukraine nonsense, about all of the propaganda on both sides coming out, and you couldn't trust anything. And then, like 2 days ago or Friday, whatever it was, you hear something about some mercenary guy gathering.
No. I'm well
That
aware,
guy.
dude. I was
Oh,
following it from the first hour. I actually was plugged in and I was listening to the Russian resources. I was on top
okay.
of that topic, and I was very, very um, concerned about where that was going. Knowing, and I know these players as far as, I follow Russian politics,
Okay.
not quite in depth, but I know all the key players, and I know who this guy is. I know what he's been doing, where he came from, his relationship to the highest level of the government and their ruling, elites. And what I saw, and it's a chessboard. You have to understand that it's so multi-layered, and there are so many different aspects at that level of the game of politics that's involved, and it's not by any means a black and white situation. And one guy is a very, very bad dude, and the other guy is a very, very bad dude. And by him staging this coup, whether it's real or whether it's staged or whatever, it's creating a position for the Russian government to be cornered into a very, very bad situation that they don't want to be in. And because he was one of the key, at least to my understanding, one of the key forces within this military operation, it puts the Russian government in a position where they are much more inclined to use heavy weapons against the country of Ukraine. And I'm talking about like tactical
I know what
nukes
you.
and or
Yeah,
thermobaric weapons. They will be much more inclined to maintain the stability of their country, because it's literally they're teetering on the brink of collapse as a country at this point, I think. And for them to be put into this situation through whatever means, be that through pressure from NATO countries, whether that from the pressure from within. And there's a battle happening right now for the leadership. Some people are saying that Putin is terribly ill, and there's a circle of oligarchs that are trying to take over the power. People that are way more powerful than him, but they don't have the official position. But we're basically looking at a situation that was happening with Stalin. Apparently, there was a theory that when Stalin died, he was very sick, and he could have been saved, but his close circle of friends prevented the doctors from administering the treatment to save his life, because they sensed the end. And to take over, they basically prevented. And Khrushchev, who came into power after him, was the key person who prevented that from happening, the medical aid. So, point being, I felt on Friday when this started happening, I felt that we are being pushed even closer to the final hour, the second, closer and closer, itching closer and closer to the next nuclear war and World War III. And it's a very, very heavy topic, man. I'm smiling, but it's so I'm kind of hopeful that it got dissolved and didn't go any further. A loss of human life on both sides has been very, very upsetting. I mean, my grandmother is Ukrainian, and I was born and raised in Russia, and I have a lot of friends from Ukraine, and I have a lot of friends in Russia, and to see people die needlessly, um, for whatever political reasons outside of this, it's horrible. So in a way,
absolutely.
in a way, I think this coup attempt being squashed kind of moves that second hand a little bit back from the nuclear disaster, from the global disaster that we will all feel.
Okay.
So
Yeah, I
it's a
mean, when
hot
I
topic.
and look, when I see stuff about things like that, I'm like, I take everything with a grain of salt because, like we had talked, I mean, there's so much propaganda on both sides, but that's why I figured I would ask you if there was I don't know if it was staged or was a legit, so it sounded like it was actually legit,
Yeah.
and yeah, I'm glad
There
it
was
was resolved then.
what to give. I'm not sure if you know the history. So he is obviously the private military contractor. He owns his own army, kind of not too dissimilar to BlackRock and Eric. What's his last name? Who
Okay,
has his own
yeah, I know
military,
who you're
basically.
talking about.
Rick,
Yeah.
um, uh, uh, Blackwater. I'm sorry, Blackwater mercenaries. And he was the strongest, the biggest bully in the country with his own military. And Putin allowed him to do this stuff, going back to Africa, then I think in Syria, and have done some atrocious stuff there. Very just like Blackwater contractors have done in Afghanistan and Iraq. So he has positioned himself from being he was basically a cook in the early. He's a former criminal as well. He spent 10 years in prison. Prigozhin, I'm talking about, and he became Putin's friend and a cook. I think he was, feeding the president, and became an oligarch himself, and the owner, eventually the owner of the private military company. So he has been fighting this battle over there, and he has felt that the Russian government was not providing him with enough ammunition, enough resources, and there were some attempts on his life and friendly fire on his troops. So he's been voicing his concerns openly, criticizing the Minister of Defense, who is a marshal, I think, at this point. Never have attended the military academy, by the way, General Shoigu, whose kid is 23 years old, and instead of fighting a battle in the war that his father is supporting, instead he is somewhere in America recording music and going to beaches and posting on Instagram, which is
Oh, okay.
most elites do not have their sons and daughters dying in this war.
No
So
different
he
than American
no,
politicians.
absolutely no, exactly the same as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
So this guy has been vocal with his concerns. In a way, think of him as Ben Steger, who got banned from the organization. So this guy has been very vocal about the organization of the government, but without criticizing Putin directly. And he's been calling for
Mm.
removal of the Minister of Defense Shoigu. And after the most recent events, where they were not supported, they were not given the right information, they were not given the right resources, his military company was and himself was so frustrated they decided to uh, make the move to remove the Minister of Defense directly. That's why they went to Rostov. Rostov is the biggest hub technically for the military and the government. They are in control of most of the Russian nuclear resources, so it's a critical hub within the infrastructure of the government. So Moscow is, as everybody knows, Moscow, but Rostov is actually the critical center to take. So they took that center, and they didn't capture, but they were negotiating with the second in command of the Ministry of Defense and the second in command of the General Chief of Staff. And these guys were, so this guy is sitting there with his machine gun, with his goons standing behind him with masks and machine guns, and these two generals who are second in command of within the government structure, and they're standing there talking to him like they're privates, and he's the general in a way. And then he continued on. He said, we are not giving up until Shoigu is removed from power. And they started walking towards Moscow, and they were covering quite a bit of distance. And at that point, the other former republic, got involved, and they sent their troops to counter the Wagner private military agency. And I guess they felt that they were being bombed as they were traveling to Moscow. Civilian people would be like Russian. The civil war started in Russia basically, and they pulled off right before they reached Moscow. I think 200 kilometers from Moscow, they decided to pull back because the other mercenaries from another former republic, you probably heard of them. They were also fighting in Ukraine. They were sent to counter the PMC soldiers, and they decided to avoid the bloodshed. He made the statement, and with the help of the Belarusian president, they dropped it. Actually, FSB actually filed a criminal case against Prigozhin. They were going to arrest him and prosecute him, but they dropped the charges against him. They said that anybody who was involved will be able to return, to war, or whatever, no repercussions. He was exiled to Belarus, where he's now sitting. We don't know what's going to happen next, but the coup was averted. Things went to whatever normal, I guess, could be, but the country was on the brink of civil war, if it wasn't already. And the thing is, the country is divided as well, just like we are here. Some people supported Prigozhin, some people supported Putin, so civilians. So it's unclear which way it would have went, but it would be clear that a lot of lives would be lost. So,
Wow.
and that's just within Russia. So some people were cheering for this, hoping that the Russian Federation will collapse. Some people were saying that this could be, affecting the entire global politics, to include, United States, and because if Putin is in the corner and he has his hand on the button, and he's deathly sick, they have a very
What's to
different.
stop him?
Yeah, they have a very different protocol. Like if here we have a lot of safety checks and balances in place, you can't just launch a nuclear missile yourself, right? In Russia, they have a very different protocol for that, from what I understand. So it would not be impossible for somebody to take control of, a nuclear submarine, or I don't know about nuclear submarine, but within the Rostov area, they have multiple nuclear silos. So it would not be impossible for somebody to take control over that. And Prigozhin is even more. So Putin is actually technically within Russia. He's considered to be a soft liner, believe it or not. He's considered to be He's considered to be more of a not as hard of a liner as they would like him to be. Let me put it that way. And Prigozhin is much more of a hard liner. So if he were to win, we don't know where this would have gone. And the people who are behind the scenes now trying to take over power, apparently they are much more hard-lined than Putin is. So as evil as we might think he is, it might be one of those scenarios where he's keeping things back a little bit, not wanting to use strategic weapons and tactical weapons in Ukraine, where these guys who are trying to dismiss them might be more inclined to do so.
Wow. Yeah, that would escalate things. You're right, globally at that point.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
And again, this is just based on my loose interpretation of events, so I'm paraphrasing quite a bit of this.
that's okay. It's still I trust you more than I do anything I see in the media. So
Yeah,
that's why I figured I'd ask you.
I do get my information from various resources, and I kind of sort of do my own fact checking in a way. I get information from pro-Russian resources, anti-Russian, pro-American, and anti-American. So somewhere in the middle, I feel like I have a more balanced picture of things
Right.
without knowing everything. But
Awesome. I appreciate the education. There we go.
and just remember, Dave, I did not hang myself. If anything I disclosed today,
Yeah. That's why I'm like, I'm just going to let him say what he's comfortable with and not ask any more questions, because he may not be back on here again, and I don't need that.
yeah,
All right. Well, Mike, I appreciate the conversation. It's been awesome. We'll have to do this a little more frequently, not every.
it was great to be back, man. Thank you for having me. Thank you for everything you do. I mean, I follow closely. Again, with the ELO system and all that stuff, and your commentary. It's great to be back. Glad we had a chance to talk again.
Yeah. Awesome. Have a good one.
Later.